we will have to rethink these profiles of leaders because the people in companies need to have vision. They will have to develop this AI literacy.
Hello and welcome to ESCP Edge, the video podcast series that brings you insights from ESCP professors at the forefront of business research. My name is Nick Taylor, and today I'm joined by Géraldine Galindo, who is full professor of Human Resources Management and director of the Leadership and Inclusive Management Institute. Géraldine, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for the invitation today.
Can we start by just a little introduction and you tell us about your field of research?
So my field of research is mainly on human resources management, and I have explored many topics, but I like exploration. This is what can I say about the links between all these topics. So I've been studying innovation and HRM first, and now I'm studying more AI and HRM topics. I've been also studying religious diversity in the workplace and also personal branding and the implication of this personal branding and the self-management of the people.
Okay, great. As director of the Leadership and Inclusive Management Institute, what's changing about leadership today?
I think that what changed is about the society and technology and all the people in this society. So I think that leadership is the reflect of these changes on the society and on the technology. So what are the main impacts of these changes for leadership? First, the impact of AI on leadership. The second evolution for this leadership, I think it's more around the skills that these leaders will need in the future. They will need to combine at the same time the old skills, what we call the old skills, and also new skills around AI, but also around ethic issues, around stewardship, around inclusivity too. So I think that this evolution is around a new mix, a new combination, a new cocktail on this leadership position and leadership issues also.
Let's look at that in a little more detail. What are the new skills? And in fact, what are the traditional skills that you're still teaching and you're still incubating at ESCP? What are the new skills that you're trying to teach, and can they be taught?
I like your question around what you try to teach, but because I think that we are thinking also about this evolution, and we are thinking about the ways to teach these leadership issues, because I think that as we are talking about soft skills, it's also a big challenge for education to develop programs in order to teach these soft skills. So what we are talking about is mainly around some specific soft skills. The first one is about critical thinking. I think that facing these new technologies such as AI, we have to teach more and more of this critical thinking, how to challenge these answers of our AI tools, how to go further than these first answers. But I think it's a big challenge to develop this critical thinking by having these new types of students also, because they're quite used to use these type of tools, and we have to make them work without these technological tools also in order to help them to develop this critical mindset. So this is the first soft skills that we try to develop in our students' mindset, but also participants in executive education programs. So this is the first one. The second one is about ethical skills. So we have to help them to think about the consequences and the impacts of their jobs in their next future, but also the impact on the society that they will have in the future. So I think that we have to think about the ways to make them aware of the impacts of their jobs and skills in their jobs, but in the society too. And the third soft skill that we try to develop in our students' mindset is the soft skills around inclusion and diversity. I think that it's also a big challenge nowadays. Even if we are talking about international students, international education, I think that our students have a lot of stereotypes. So we have to help them to understand their stereotypes and also to overcome these stereotypes in order to work together and not side by side and or in silos. And I think that it's also a big challenge because we are talking a lot about this inclusion and diversity. But when I'm teaching this type of topics, I can observe that my students don't know what we are talking about, and they don't know how to develop this type of inclusion in their next future, in their next teams. And even at school, they have to be trained to work together and to understand the differences of the others.
Do you think there's any risk that in the future, in 10, 15, 20, 25 years, we will not need leaders or middle managers, or there will be much less need for them just because of the impact of AI?
It can be seen as the first answer of this AI movement, that we won't need anymore of these leaders or this leadership also a movement. But I think that we will have to rethink these profiles of leaders, because the people in companies need to have vision, need to have people that are able to decide also. So we will need leaders, but with a different profile. They will have to combine their skills on technology, because they will have to know what we are talking about. Because when these leaders are developing discourses around AI nowadays, I'm not sure that they know what they are talking about. So I think that they will have to develop this AI literacy, and at the same time, they will have to develop the skills that I mentioned before, this critical thinking posture. They will have to develop ethical stewardship, and they will have to develop inclusion and diversity knowledge, but also posture inside the companies. And they will have to develop this exemplarity around this topic in order to impulse in these companies new movements and new changes.
What's an idea that leaders or prospective leaders should remember? I guess you're instructing at school at ESCP people who are going to found their own companies, people who are going to go on to lead companies. What are some of the takeaways that you really hope that they get from your classes?
I think that one of the big points that they will have to think about as future leaders is they will have to learn again and again all during their lives. It's not because they are in a grande école, in a French grande école, what we say in French grande école, that they have finished to study. So they will have to study at the same time very technical things, such as AI tools and ways to use these AI tools. And they will have not to forget to develop these soft skills. It's not because they can be seen as potential at the beginning of their careers that they are going to become leaders at the end. So they will have to be very careful on this combination and ways to be trained again and again by themselves, but also maybe in executive programs, but also by having exchanges with the others. I think that they will open their mindset by doing so, and they will maybe become leaders in the next futures by combining these two types of skills.
Géraldine, you recently published a paper about religious diversity in the workplace. How that research came about and what did you find?
So I've been studying religious diversity in the workplace for 15 years. I think it's a really interesting research because it's a research on invisible identities in the workplace. Even if they are not visible in the workplace, what we found is that there is like a continuum of this visible, invisible identity in the workplace. So they can share some specific subtle signs and then share more and more in safe spaces with religious people in the workplace, also in different contexts, in liminal contexts between the work and the private life. So this continuum of invisibility questions companies. Why? Because companies are developing are developing programs on diversity for specific minorities. And Catholics in France can be seen now as minorities because there is a little number of Catholics that are practitioners in their private lives first. And in France, we have more agnostics than religious people in the workplace. We don't have to forget it. But these Catholics have not specific programs in companies because companies can see them as quite invisible people, but also they have days off based on Catholic practices, and it's not a big challenge for a company to manage them. But even if companies don't manage this type of religious people in the workplace, they have to be careful about the impact of these people in the workplace because these people want to have like an alignment between their own values and the values of the companies. They don't look for specific diversity programs for them. They look for this alignment with their ethical posture, with their moral posture, but also with diversity in general programs in companies. So I think that we have also to study maybe the connection between these religious issues with political and also philosophical issues. I think that all these arguments are quite combined now in the mind of in the mindset of the people, and sometimes they can ask some things by saying, okay, it's because of my political beliefs, and then it's also because of my religious beliefs. And you can see that there is like a mix all the time between all these type of beliefs. And we can see that now in companies, and we have to help also companies to identify first this type of position, but also to answer and to put limits also for these people inside companies.
I've also seen you've been working on AI and religion. What does that research look like?
When you are talking with people, because we did this research within a company based on interviews, based also on photo elicitation, we saw that a lot of people see this AI like a black box, but also like something in the sky, and that can be seen that as a new prophetic perspective. So this is like this ambivalence that we can find in religion, at the same time fascination and fear. And AI has all these facets.
Amazing, fascinating, potentially perhaps a little scary though, I don't know. And I don't know if people who resist AI afforded the same protections as those who are agnostic or resist religion?
This is a big question. I don't know, maybe we are going to study it, but I think, yeah, it can be seen as scary. And I think that one of the goals of a researcher is to deepen on this type of movements and changes, and maybe to offer also new lenses in order to understand differently these processes. And I think that by doing this research and by working a lot on a publication is also a way to say, okay, facing this AI black box, companies are not all the time conscious, but they have developed ways, new parallels in order to accompany these people in this process, in this unknown process, but with known references and basis.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Géraldine, for joining us today. Géraldine Galindo is the full professor of Human Resources Management and the director of the Leadership and Inclusive Management Institute at ESCP. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Join us next time for another edition of ESCP Edge, bringing you business insights from leading ESCP professors.